Okay.
And then that gives you a directory where you can search by name.
Because Vanessa, Rebecca gave me an address, but it's the wrong address.
Just fill it. You think so?
I'm pretty sure.
Since he's not here
Like
tonight.
90% sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting of Millersville Borough Council to order. As a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed, so we are live now. We'll start the meeting with the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first up, we have approval of the July 14th, 2026 council meeting minutes and the July 9th, 2026 council meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the council meeting held on July 14th and July 9th.
And I will second that motion to approve the meeting minutes.
All right, thanks, Joe. And Mike, comments, questions, discussion?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor of approving the council meeting minutes for July 14th, 2026 and July 9th, 2026, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Now for citizens' requests and concerns. If anyone has comments or questions or a statement they'd like to make to council, you can step up to the microphone, state your name for the record. Anyone? All right, well, we'll move on then to the presentation from the Lancaster Public Library.
Good evening. Thanks for having us for a presentation this evening. I'm John Heinley, Director of Donor Advising for Lancaster Public Library, and with me from the library is Lissa Holland, our Executive Director. When we get to the question, and if you have any questions, I'm not a librarian, I'm a fundraiser. Lissa is a librarian, so some things she'll answer better. And Darcy Pollock, who is one of our trustees and treasurer of our Board of Trustees. So appreciate having them here as well. Lancaster Public Library refers to the downtown branch and the Mountville branches within the libraries of Lancaster County. So when I refer to Lancaster Public Library, I'm talking about the two branches that make up that entity. There are 14 libraries in Lancaster County, different libraries. The Manheim Township Library is a municipal library. The rest are nonprofits and have assigned service areas, but all work together to serve our community. And the library system of Lancaster County supports and works behind the scenes with all of the libraries to provide library services to our community. So just that quick background so you know when I say Lancaster Public Library, that's what I'm referring to. So the first slide here, the mission of Lancaster Public Library is to inspire, empower, and strengthen our community by connecting people with information, ideas, and enriching experiences. And the vision by providing equitable access to vital educational resources, exceptional programming, and community building opportunities. The Lancaster Public Library is recognized as a dynamic center of knowledge and a cornerstone of a thriving Lancaster community. Next. Here's just a few stats, and this slide is specific to Millersville Borough, how the Millersville community has used the library in the last year in 2025. 16% of residents are library card holders. 7,876 materials were borrowed. This is physical materials from Lancaster Public Library at either of our branches. And that does not include the e-resources, attending programs, using internet or computer, other things within the library space. Those physical materials alone add up to $228,000 worth of free materials that the community, Millersville Borough residents have borrowed within the last year. Next. For the broader service area engagement, and the Lancaster Public Library within the library system of Lancaster County is assigned 14 municipalities as our service area. So this is referring to the engagement within that service area. In 2025, 183,000 patron library visits, over 420,000 materials borrowed, and that adds up to over $12.5 million of free resources made available to the community. And I referred to using computers in the library, over 64,000 patron computer and wireless sessions, which for any of you who pay for home internet and have one or more internet-enabled devices, you know that that gets more and more expensive. So for many people in our communities, this is an absolutely vital resource, whether that is putting in a job application or looking up medical information or doing other just basic staying in touch with family. They may not be able to do those things at home. They may not have a internet-enabled device. Coming into the library allows many members of our community to do those things and more. Next. You, of course, know that libraries have books, but we also have many things beyond just books. And these are just a few examples, and I won't go through all of them in detail, but I'll highlight a few. The e-resources, Libby and Hoopla are the two that our community is probably most aware of. Those have e-books and audiobooks and streaming services and everything. Again, all of this totally for free. And personally, I use a lot of audiobooks, and this is an amazing resource. We have a lot of things that aren't books that you can check out, like games. I've checked out Parachute and Balls for Neighborhood Night Out on our block, musical instruments, museum passes, American Girl dolls, many other things. We have workrooms and meeting rooms that are available. The study rooms can be checked out, reserved for free. Our meeting rooms can be reserved for a fee. We have a reduced rate for nonprofits. And we have one small room called the Flex Office that is available for nonprofits to use to meet with clients for free. And so we want you as community leaders to be aware of that as a resource for people that may need a space like that. Our Business and Reference Center is a really wonderful resource that we have, and that is unique to Lancaster Public Library. It's at our downtown branch, and it's actually unique even in surrounding counties. SCORE, the nonprofit that supports businesses and entrepreneurs, they send their clients often to our Business and Reference Center. We have a lot of different databases for things like market research, for nonprofits to do grant research, and again, all of those are free, and those databases are prohibitively expensive for most small businesses, nonprofits. So again, one that I want you to know about as community leaders. Next. Just a few program highlights. We have been thrilled to continue to see growth in our program attendance. Really pleased with our program staff and the quality of programming that they are offering in our community, because it's obviously meeting needs that our community has based on how people are responding and attending. Last year we saw a 44.6% increase in attendance. We're tracking ahead of 2025 already in 2026. Some of the things that we've introduced more recently, we have added various world language programs. And this has been a really exciting initiative, especially from our early literacy librarian. And some of those have been ASL, American Sign Language, Storytime, Spanish, Arabic, and some others that she's working on as well, to try to, as best we can, represent the whole community that we have. And ASL has been a particularly interesting one because, sort of like the Business Center, we have people who have come to that program from surrounding counties because there's not anything quite like that closer to them. So that's been a really special one. LPL on the go, Lancaster Public Library on the go. Last year, through funding from an ARPA grant, that was one of the COVID relief grants that we got through the city of Lancaster, we were able to, among other things, launch an expanded outreach program. And this allowed us to purchase a van that's equipped with all sorts of things that can be set up in the community. We also added, since then, a book bike. So our outreach specialist, who is full-time doing outreach, Matthew, he's able to take the van and the bike out into the community and go to things like parades and fairs and municipal events. We've partnered with a number of municipalities and would love to do more of that if there's anything that you're interested in doing together. He also goes to schools and to nonprofits. He can make library cards, take materials along to be checked out. He can set up a mobile computer station wherever he goes with hotspots and laptops. So really taking any of the resources that we have in the library out into the community. And the core idea there is to eliminate barriers wherever we can so that everyone in our community can access what they need from the library, even if for one reason or another they can't make it into the library itself. And a few stats there, including last year, 100 outreach initiatives that he was involved in, and he's on pace, I think, to double that at least this year, and nearly 8,000 community members that he connected with at those outreach events last year. And then just a few upcoming programs that we're excited about. We have that first one is a 3D printing multi-day program for teens that's coming up in October with funding from the Lancaster County STEM Alliance. That'll be the first time we're doing that. There's a regular miniature painting night, the figurines. We have a librarian who, that's a personal passion of his, and it's become a very vibrant one. And cooking with kids is one that we have been doing that's been really neat. We were able to add a mobile cooking cart to increase different parts of our programming and teach things like food science and healthy eating and cooking and things like that. Next. This slide shows, this is the exact same slide for those of you that were on the board last year. You saw this. So this is our 2026 budget, and then I'm just going to flip directly to the 2027 budget, which we're still working on, but what I really want to highlight is our community has been very generous and increasingly generous in supporting the library. And this year, about half of our funding comes from donated funds within our community, from individuals, from foundations, from businesses, and then about a third comes from government sources, including Millersville Borough, a faithful and generous partner. Thank you for that. Next year, part of the situation that we're going to find ourselves in is passport services. This is covered somewhat in the news. We have lost, as a nonprofit library, the ability to process passports, and that funded an entire position at the library. Congressman Smucker and some others are working to hopefully find a way to restore that, but there's no guarantee of that. So compared to this year's budget, which we already don't have that money this year, even though it was budgeted for, that won't be in our budget next year. And also ARPA, which I mentioned, that grant funding. And I know a lot of municipalities, businesses have experienced the end of various COVID relief grants and funds. We're coming to the end at the end of this year. So next year, we really hope that we can not cut back on any of our programming, any of our services, but the reality is that funding is going down, and some significant funding. So that's to represent our 2027 budget. Next. And this shows just a different way of looking at the finances. We've talked over the years, even before my time, when we've presented to the municipalities about this in different ways. And this is a new way of presenting this information. This is the average per capita comparison for library funding locally versus at different levels. This is combined state and local funding. So this is our public funding, what libraries receive. At the national level, $48 per capita is what libraries receive, public libraries. In Pennsylvania, that's $28 per capita. So Pennsylvania as a whole is significantly underfunded in our libraries. Lancaster County, that drops even more, less than half of that already reduced amount. $12.65 per capita is what we receive in government funding. And then Lancaster Public Library, that's $8.28 per capita. So almost exactly a full $40 per capita under the national average. Next. And that's the reason, and this year the presentation is a little bit different in spending some time on something that you may have heard about, Vote Yes for Libraries. This is a county-wide referendum effort jointly by the libraries that we are working on. And we're working on it precisely because of that previous graph that I showed you. Despite having a community that is generous and supportive of our libraries, including municipalities, individuals, businesses that generously support our libraries, we don't have a sustainable model for funding our libraries. And as costs, which you all dealing with your own personal budgets, maybe businesses, and as a municipality, you know that costs keep going up. And to keep good staff, to pay them fair wages, to provide benefits, becomes more and more expensive, along with other costs as well. And we have those significant areas where we have been losing funding, and next year that will be down. And so together as libraries, we are working on this referendum. We are right now gathering signatures to hopefully put it on the November 3rd ballot as a countywide tax referendum that would add a 0.55 mil dedicated property tax countywide to all taxable property, and that money would only be able to be used for funding library services in Lancaster County. That would fund the library system of Lancaster County and those 14 libraries. And just to give two kind of general ideas of what that is, that would roughly provide the amount of funding for our libraries countywide that would put us at that national average of $48 per capita. And so we talk about stable, sufficient, and secure funding. A big part of that is really, for the first time in Lancaster County, being able to fund our libraries at that level that is really expected of libraries, and provides us with the ability to give services to the community in the way that libraries are expected to do in the 21st century. The return on investment, research shows within Pennsylvania, and this number is similar throughout the country, but this is a specifically Pennsylvania number, that for every dollar invested in our public libraries, communities get back $5.50 in investment return on that investment, which is about as good as you can get, actually. $5.50 for every dollar, and that comes in the forms of improved public education. There's a direct correlation between investment in public libraries and PSSA scores in our public schools. Workforce development, benefiting our local businesses, providing higher quality, better trained workers. I talked about people being able to apply for jobs online at libraries, to be able to get help from librarians in finding job search resources, things like that. There's all sorts of ways that ends up coming back, in addition to things like being able to check out books and games and stream movies and all sorts of things for free in our community. So it is a worthwhile investment that would return in significant ways for us as a community. So tonight, afterwards, if anybody wants to, Darcy from our board will be here and will gladly take signatures from any registered voters who are, and you probably are all here at this meeting, residents of Lancaster County as well. Next. So what would that level of funding do for our libraries? It would really allow us to bring our standards up to what Pennsylvania expects of us as a library in terms of hours and staffing and providing new and updated collections and all sorts of things. Here are just a few of the things. Enhanced programming would be a big part of that. We would hope to extend our evening and weekend hours. There's a lot of people, based on their work schedules, they can't make it into a library when they are available. We could add an increased staff presence on the floor to support our patrons. I'm guessing many of you have gone to hardware stores, and there's a big difference in a hardware store having to go aisle after aisle to go find somebody to answer your question versus a hardware store where, as you are there looking at things, somebody walks up to you and asks if they can help. It's the same difference in a library. The more we can have good, highly trained, qualified staff out on the floor supporting our patrons, the better we can serve our whole community. I talked about the on-the-go program, and that van that's in that photo, that is our on-the-go van. It's obvious that from one week to the next, if we were able to hire one more person to do outreach, well, there are so many opportunities to take services out into the community. Not that we're necessarily promising that one specifically, but to give you an idea. And expanded e-resource collection. And this would both be for us from Lancaster Public Library being able to offer that. E-resources are far more expensive than physical resources. When we buy a book, we have it until it is too worn out to check out. And even then, we have people that repair those so we can keep checking them out even longer. E-resources, unlike if you are an Audible member and you purchase a book on Audible, it's yours for life. For libraries, depending on which platform it is, we have it for a short period of time, maybe a year, or a certain number of checkouts. The licenses work differently, and so it's often more expensive than the physical book in the first place, and then we have to buy it over and over and over again. But our community is using it. People are accessing the library or accessing books in that way, so we will keep providing them, but it really adds to the cost. So we can expand that e-resource collection, and the library system of Lancaster County, with more funding, would be able to provide more of those resources for the entire county, and not have them limited to the service areas of particular libraries. Next. So, I want to, again, as I did earlier, thank you, Millersville Borough, for being a faithful and generous partner and supporter of Lancaster Public Library. We thank you for your contribution again this year to provide these services to our community. As we look ahead to next year, with this referendum hopefully going on the ballot in November, it is late enough in the year that everybody's going to have budgets planned and probably in many cases approved before we know if that referendum is going through. So we very much hope that you will put us in your budget again for 2027, even if the referendum goes through. We don't know exactly when that funding will come to us. It will probably be relatively late in the year, and so until we get into the next year's cycle of that happening on a regular basis, for our operating costs and everything to get us through to that point, we would still greatly appreciate your support next year. If the referendum goes through, it would of course be your prerogative at that point, if you chose not to, disperse that donation. But we very much hope that you do, and we'd be grateful for that. And we do recognize that whether individual donors or municipalities, if that referendum goes through, not everybody will choose to give, and probably especially municipalities and the county. That will free those funds up to go back into your budget to meet other important costs within the community. So that's kind of how we're thinking about that as we look ahead. And last slide. I am very happy to answer any questions or ask Lissa to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I'll start us off. Given the millage rate and what is the anticipated inflow to the library should that ballot measure be successful?
Mm-hmm. So we are trying to get clarity on one pretty significant question. The reassessment that has happened, there is not clarity, and we, more than anyone in the community, would like to have clarity on this, and we're hoping we have it soon, and we're getting legal input on this. We are not certain yet whether, like municipalities, school districts, and county, that would be adjusted going into 2027 if it were to pass, or if 0.55 would go into effect in 2027. The planning of it and setting that amount was under the assumption that that is a 2026 amount,
Yeah.
And that it would be adjusted, and if that was the case, it would be about 25 million that would fund, again, the library system and the 14 libraries. And that's where that roughly $48 per capita funding for our libraries comes from. If it does not get adjusted, and I should say, it's just this weird timing right now of when the reassessment is happening and when this ballot measure is on. Absolutely, all future reassessments, it will go through the same process that all of those other taxing bodies, that the adjustment based on the reassessment. So it's just a question this year. If that were to go into effect in 2027, it would be 44 million, roughly. I mean, depending, of course, people are appealing and whatnot, but.
Presumably, I am not going to be asking you a math problem you don't already have the answer to, but that you had a very impactful graph there indicating what the per capita investment in the libraries were for various locations, nationally, state, et cetera. Where would that put Lancaster County Public Libraries on that graph?
So It will shift a little bit, if that goes through, it will shift a little bit how we look at library services in Lancaster County, because for the first time, we would be sufficiently funded. And right now, as much as we would like this not to be the case, there is a bit of a competition between the libraries, even though we work closely together and coordinate our efforts, because we're fighting over $12.65 per capita in the county.
Sure.
Getting that funding really should dramatically reduce, if not entirely eliminate, that dynamic, including more funding going to the library system that would be equitably providing services to the whole county, and not having maybe smaller libraries in less populated parts of the county really dramatically underfunded. I mean, when I said some of the stuff that we could do with greater funding, Lancaster Public Library is, in certain ways at least, better funded than some of the other libraries. There's a lot of libraries in the county where the director doesn't have benefits. So at those libraries, like even just getting up to a quality standard for how, pay for staff would be a significant thing. This is a really long way of getting to the answer to your question. We don't know exactly what the formula will be for distribution to each of the libraries. The Library System of Lancaster County Board is who approves that distribution formula. Representatives from the libraries are working together on proposing a formula that would feel fair to everyone, that if we're all in agreement, likely the board would happily approve that. But that $48 per capita should be a rough guide for what it would be likely to work out to countywide for our libraries. But we don't know exactly what it will be for Lancaster Public Library. And it should, I meant to say this earlier, that amount would also, should meet the existing operating costs roughly of all of the libraries in the county, which would mean that in so much as donations do continue to come in, and in other places that have passed referendums like this, while they've often seen an initial dip in the donated funds, over the long haul, they've actually generally seen them go up, because communities see what a well-funded library can actually do, and they even more so want to get behind that and invest in that in their communities. So, so that those donations, then whatever the sources they would come from, would allow us to continue to build new and expanded services to better serve our community.
Just one more from me, and then I'll let everybody else go. You have a number of academics and former educators up here who are very friendly, myself included, to the idea and the concept of a public library. Assume a worst-case scenario in the future. The community does not feel that the library is meeting its needs. Something happens with the money that the public disapproves of. What recourse would the public have then to undo this? Would that be a similar ballot measure in the future? Would this be an action by some legislative body? What is the control for the public?
Great question. So with a referendum, the only way to remove or reduce that would be another ballot measure, another referendum. And that, I mean, really with any ballot measure, anybody in the community can initiate and take something through that process in the same way that right now the Vote Yes for Libraries is doing.
It would be another referendum.
It would be another referendum.
Put it outside the hands of like a state legislature or
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that would be a little bit different is currently, when community members are upset about one thing or another at a library, one of the things that we hear sometimes, and I assume the other libraries in the community do as well, is my tax dollars are paying for this, which is sort of true. I mean, there is a small amount right now of tax money that is coming to the libraries, but there would actually be more room, not that we're looking to get this feedback, but it would actually make it true for anyone in our community to be able to say, I am part of funding this, and so I want to express how I'm feeling about something, and that would actually carry a little bit more weight than it currently does. Great questions, thanks.
Can I just, and if we get more funding, one of the first things will do, is to eliminate fines.
Yeah, and that,
I mean, right now, it's still a very major part of our budget line, but we would love to eliminate them.
Would that be retroactive if, say, an elementary school delinquent was still hanging on to a book from 1989?
If at 18 now, for Lancaster Public, this isn't a countywide thing, we clear all accounts. When they turn 18, we eliminate all fines because we assume parents were responsible for them and you can go forward. And after a while, if you haven't returned it, that book's probably been withdrawn. No one will know.
I was asking for a friend.
yeah.
Well, tell your friend that, okay?
Well, on that note, I'll just quickly mention, we, Lancaster Public Library, just took the step of eliminating our relationship with collection agency. Previously, what?
I didn't realize you did that to begin with.
Well, and it was an outdated thing, and there was strong consensus from the team that it was time to get rid of that, because people who most need the library are most hurt by late fees and, worse yet, debt collection. And we want people who want to access and need to access the library to not encounter barriers to be able to do that.
I have a simpler comment here.
I may or may not give you a simpler answer.
Well, it's just a comment. You didn't have to answer it. I'm proud that we kept your budget in our last year, and I hope we do it again. There's really no place in Lancaster County I'd rather live in Millersville, but just because we have the college here and we have SMAC, it doesn't mean we have a rec center. Just because we have the Millersville Library here, it doesn't mean we have a library. We're unlike, in a small community, name them, Mount Joy, Lidditz, Manheim Township, all the other, Lampeter, Strasburg, they all have a library. So that's one thing to keep note. The Millersville Library, as it stands right now, is of little use to the Millersville public, unless you're a student. So I appreciate you presenting this here, and I hope that's thought about when we consider the council the next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
The budget, I should say. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick one. So if anyone who's watching the live stream wants to sign,
Yep.
how could they go about doing that?
Yeah, so the website that was on the presentation, vote yes for number 4, libraries.org. On there's a place where you can see a list of opportunities to sign the petition. Most of the libraries, depending what library somebody is closest to physically, most of the libraries are able to collect signatures. Downtown, we are collecting for sure any weekday during kind of like standard working hours, and as much as possible into the evenings and on Saturday as well. We do have a couple kind of large community events coming up where we'll be doing that, and our Mountville branch staff as well, in general, for most of their open hours, are able to collect signatures. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just is there any correlation between, in communities that have passed this referendum and overall library membership?
That's a good question.
I don't know. That has not been discussed. We have talked about funding, and that funding still comes from other sources. We have not talked about how it helps with number of patrons. I will say that our numbers have increased greatly, being that we are going into the community and taking the library to the community. And some of it too is a lot of people are now doing a lot of online, so we don't actually see them. They can come in and get a card and we never see them again. We have their number, we have the card, but how the referendum, my feeling is we will go out more if I can build the staff for outreach, that is my dream to do that. And I find very odd in the last 2 years, some of our circulation numbers have gone down, but our program attendance has gone off the charts. And again, this year, we have 2 baby story times now. We were having 40 babies coming to a story time. That's not, the noise level by itself was overwhelming. So we've divided it up and we're looking at doing a third. So people are coming. They may not be using books and they don't need a library card to come to programs, but families are coming, and our adult programs are the same way. The miniature one, when the librarian told me we were doing that, I thought, okay, one time, no one will come, that's wonderful. And every month, we have a very large returning crowd to it. And so I was very pleased to tell him he won and I didn't on that one. So, yeah, I don't know if cards will increase, but the services will increase.
Yeah, it is true that since launching the On the Go, the van, I don't remember the exact number, but I know this year Matthew's goal had been to average 1 new library card per day, and the last I looked, he was racing far ahead of that. So, yeah, I think the more we're offering things that meet community needs, and the more we're out in the community, we have seen that increase. And my educated guess would be that with this level of funding, that would be even more the case. But, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No other comments or questions? Well, with that, I'll say thank you for coming and sharing with us, and we'll keep all of this in mind as we do our budget in the next few months.
Thank you. And thank you again for the opportunity to share and for the wonderful support and partnership that you offer.
And Darcy is going to stay to, at the end if people want to sign the petition to get it on the ballot.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our action items. First up is the 2026 Millersville Turkey Trot. Is there anything we need to know about that, Rebecca?
Just that it's all the same as last.
All the same as last year.
And the specific information about the roads and all that is in your backup.
Yes, it's November 26th.
I will make a motion to approve the 2026 Millersville Turkey Trot event.
Second that one.
All right, thanks, Joe. And Mike, discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the 2026 Millersville Turkey Trot event signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next up, we have discussion and approval of conditional employment offer as a patrolman to Carlos Crispin Rodriguez, as recommended by the Civil Service Commission. I see our Civil Service Commission here. Anything, or if there's anything you want to say, yeah.
Just speak for the record. So my name is Tony Hightower, Madam Council President, council members. We have recommended the council extend a conditional offer to our patrol officer candidate, Carlos Crispin Rodriguez, and Carlos is our top candidate, so we present that for your approval. And while I'm up here, we didn't get an agenda item, so I apologize for going off script. As the Civil Service Commission, we'd also like to acknowledge that we completed our National Night Out and thank the council for your support, and Mayor Listowski as well. Thank you.
Looked better attended than last year, too. I had a great time.
Outstanding. Yes, Councilman Lane, yes, we did have 450 to 500 participants, and we had 52 vendors, 52 participants, and many of them have asked to be invited back next year, so great success. And I'd like to thank Mary Lyons and Melissa Ostrowski as our key organizers. Many people to thank, but Melissa and Mary brought everything together for us. So thank you very much. Any questions for me on Patrol Officer Candidate Crispin Rodriguez?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that he carries your recommendation is sufficient, but if anybody else on council.
I was able to meet him at the National Night Out.
Oh, excellent.
So, seemed like a great guy. And so I'll make the motion to approve the conditional hiring of Carlos Crispin Rodriguez as patrolman pending the physical exam and psychological evaluation.
Seconded.
Thank you, Joe. Sorry, Mike.
That's okay.
Heard you take the breath.
Any discussion or questions?
If I can just add one comment.
Yes, please.
I just want to make sure everybody realizes how momentous this is tonight. This will be 13 officers on the books, which has not been the case since 2022. That's taken 4 years to get here.
You're
Yeah.
here.
It's a big deal.
All right.
Very much.
Should probably take a vote on that note.
All right, yes. Motion and second. All those in favor of the conditional hiring of Carlos Crispin Rodriguez as patrolman, pending physical exam and psychological evaluation, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
And to comment on what the chief said, this is really excellent. And I want to thank all our current officers who've had to work overtime and sacrifice because we didn't have all of the positions filled. So thank you to you and your staff. All right. Tuition reimbursement for Officer Tracy Starry.
We've got a lot of information in your backup for this one. But the current police contract between the Borough Council and the Police Association allows for an officer to receive up to $5,000 per year in tuition reimbursement for educational classes. In this case, we're talking about Officer Starry going towards a master's degree in criminal justice through Penn West University. The way that it would work, that it would be a reimbursement, although Penn West actually has a pool system that would allow her to pay a certain amount up front and then the rest at the end of the course. And I, just so that you had it fresh in your mind, I have the contract in there that lists out sort of the differences depending on what grade she would get, how much would be reimbursed by the borough. But we do anticipate then putting that money into the budget for next year. But she would be starting this fall semester. And she has just about hit her anniversary date. Technically, for the contract, it says after they've hit their 1 year anniversary. She's hitting it this month. The timing didn't line up. This was when the council meeting was when she has to start classes. So, so we're asking for a slight bit of leniency on the weeks there because she hits it this month and needs to start the class this month. So, can I answer any questions?
Questions?
I will make a motion to approve the tuition reimbursement for Officer Tracy Starry upon successful completion of courses to fulfill a graduate degree in criminal justice according to the provisions of the Police Association contract.
I will second that.
All right. Great. Discussion?
Glad it's being used.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely wonderful. I love seeing anyone.
It's nice to add that even being full staff, we have officers advancing themselves to continue on to really benefit the department.
Better educated, better trained officers can only be of benefit to the community.
It's
Yep.
what you want to see, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, excellent. Well, with that, all those in favor of approving the tuition reimbursement for Officer Tracy Starry upon successful completion of courses to fulfill a graduate degree in criminal justice according to the provisions of the Police Association contract, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Great. And then we have discussion of escrow reduction request for Lafayette Place. So I had a question on this. I was under the impression that all of their work was done. And it seems like it is not. So what percentage is lingering? How long will we hold money, like funds in escrow?
The only part we're holding now is what's required as part of the road dedication ordinance that talks about that we have to hold it as warranty. And I don't have the exact, at least 3 years after the road dedication, that then we have to hold just that small percentage, that in this case it's 36,392.13. That's the amount we're holding in the event that a road suddenly gets a huge pothole because of the way that they paved it, or something along those lines. But this escrow reduction request probably could have come a while ago. It was one of those things that they, once the road dedication happened, they were getting their ducks in a row and realized that they needed to do a request. But there are a couple of items outstanding on their as-built plans that our engineer requires before those can actually be recorded. So they know what those are, and they will definitely not be receiving the entirety of the escrow until the as-built plan is recorded.
My only question is, what does the engineer say?
A recommendal for approval. He had slightly different numbers than they had requested, but his numbers are based on what the ordinance says.
Okay.
Very good. I will make a motion to approve the execution of the reduction of escrow held on the Lafayette Place project by $270,515.95, leaving the escrow amount held on the project at $36,392.13.
I'll second.
Thanks, Angela. Any other questions or discussion?
Only one. What is the duration at which we will be holding that money in warranty?
I have to check back on that section of the ordinance again. I want to say it's 3 years, but a significant amount of time so that we know that the roads are good.
Okay.
All right, then all those in favor of approving the execution of reduction of escrow held on the Lafayette Place project by $270,000, $515.95, leaving the escrow amount held on the project at $36,392.13. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. We'll move on to workshop items. First up is possible changes to the rental property ordinance. Rebecca?
So this has been something that, honestly, we've been talking about somewhat since I came to the borough, actually, and in working with our team here, getting an understanding of how our rental program works. So just to give you a little bit of background about what we're talking about this evening, the borough implemented a rental property ordinance over 20 years ago. We probably had one of the first ones, certainly in our region, if not in Pennsylvania, really in an effort to protect the residents, and especially us being a college town with a lot of individuals renting, a lot of students renting, really came down to the importance of safety. Over the last couple of years, especially working with our contractor, Commonwealth Code Inspection Services, which you know Rob through, we have seen a fantastic improvement in the quality of the rentals in the borough, in their compliance, in really in all aspects of the rental program. However, we've also run into a number of different enforcement issues. Some of that just due to simply the age of the ordinance. We've had it for a while, no really significant changes to it. And also because we do have more rentals than we did when this ordinance was created. So some of the things that made sense when we were a smaller number, I think is a little bit different now. Right now the borough has just about 400 rental properties, which includes about 1,000 units themselves. Currently, we do a rental inspection every year, and that means that Rob goes into every single unit, the 1,000 unit, every single year. The goal of those inspections are really health and safety inspections. There are a couple of requirements here, checking for anything related to a significant property maintenance violation. The ordinance sets out rules about what landlords have to do. They have to reapply every year for their license. They have to have the inspection. They have to pay for their license, all of that. The ordinance also talks a little bit about the rules of the tenants. They have to be respectful tenants. They can't have any disruptive conduct. If they do have any disruptive conduct, we have a separate section for that. So that's sort of what the ordinance has right now. And just to give you an idea of what it takes to operate this ordinance, to implement it fully, it legitimately requires hours from every single member of the administrative staff. We spend hours on sending out renewals, on mailing out violations if they failed their rental inspection. Rob spends all of his time on doing the rental inspections. If we get complaints from a landlord or a tenant going out to the property, we have to follow up with them on if they haven't paid their sewer and trash bill. We sometimes, if we have a dispute or something going on, we're connecting them to the right resources. So this ordinance, to execute it fully, takes every single member of the administrative staff. So I just want to give that as an understanding that maybe unlike some of our other ordinances that kind of operate themselves, like our fireworks ordinance, if there's a firework, the police go out. Otherwise, it doesn't take a lot to work to manage that ordinance. This is one that the implementation of it is very time intensive. And it's also something that, because of the age of it, we're finding that there's opportunities to increase the transparency, especially for our landlords and tenants, and also find ways to make it more efficient due to the technology that we have today. So over the past couple of months, we've been working on some brainstorming and some research, and Gina's going to talk to you a little bit about that. But some of the overall goals that we're looking at with some of these changes that are in the memo and the red line version that I sent over to you have to do with really modernizing and simplifying the administration of the ordinance, really aligning with the recent passage that the council did of adopting the 2024 version of the International Property Maintenance Code, really focusing in inspections on risk, especially due to all of the hard work that Rob has put in on really getting our rentals compliant and up to a good standard of health and safety. Improving our communication with our owners and our tenants, clarifying enforcement, making it easier to enforce the ordinance, and removing some barriers that could unnecessarily increase housing costs. We know how important it is to focus on affordable housing, and certainly having an affordable rental stock is important for the borough, especially being a college community. But if there are things that our ordinance can do that can help reduce those unnecessary costs, that's something that council can consider. But overall, we're looking at a program that's more predictable, more transparent, more efficient, and aligns well with some of the recent changes in other ordinances in the borough, especially with the property maintenance. So I am going to have Gina come up. Gina has been our intern this summer. She has been working a lot on this project. She's going to share a little bit about the research that she's done comparing our ordinance to others.
All right, thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. So this is just a little bit of a summary of my work that I've done here at the borough this summer. So during this time, I've conducted research to compare Millersville Borough's rental ordinance to rental ordinances of other municipalities in Pennsylvania, such as Upper Merion Township, Shippensburg, State College, and Elizabethtown, with a focus on other college towns. Some of my main research questions included: how do other municipalities enforce inspections for rental units? How do other municipalities require systematic inspections of rental units? Do other municipalities have fees included in their enforcement of inspections? How frequently do they require inspections? What duties do other municipalities list for property managers in lieu of the owner of the rental unit? And do rental ordinances of other municipalities reference property maintenance code? In my research, I found that the borough's rental ordinance differed in some ways when compared to the listed municipalities. A majority of these municipalities require inspections every 3 years after initial inspection, whereas the borough requires inspections every year after initial inspections. All of the municipalities I researched also included provisions emphasizing the role of the code enforcement officer as the arbiter of the rental ordinance, and also enabled he or she to be using other applicable codes, such as property maintenance code, when inspecting rental units. Other municipalities also require inspections before issuing a rental license, which the borough is currently having trouble enforcing. All research ordinances listed the importance of rental units having GCFI outlets, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors as a requirement for passing inspection, which the borough does lack in detail, but we have been carrying this out in practice. So overall, the borough's rental property ordinance is older compared to others, and it lacks some crucial provisions that would enhance our enforcement procedures of our current procedures. The borough would also benefit from these amendments to its ordinance on the topics of inspection frequency, inspection requirements, the role of the code enforcement official, and the role of property managers who are acting in lieu of property owners that live more than 20 miles away from the borough. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Gina. You did a great job doing some great research on this summer and helped us get to a great place on this. So, providing the backup was the memo as well as a slightly redlined version of our current ordinance, trying to give a little bit of what it is that we're recommending for council to look at. The redline version certainly doesn't include everything because some of it will come down to nitty-gritty technical detail that we have to figure out with our solicitor. But some of the areas of topic, or some of the areas for discussion this evening that I think we're looking for from the staff perspective, we're looking for some direction from council on exactly what areas we should focus on, anything that you think that we shouldn't focus on, any questions that I can answer to help give additional direction so that we know where to take this to the next step. So some areas for discussion, looking at administrative improvements, allowing for electronic submission explicitly. We don't necessarily have to take in every rental license application in person mailed in. We know the postage is expensive. We do have the ability to accept those electronically, but we really don't currently because that's not really the way that the ordinance is laid out. Also, the ability for us to maybe send initial notices or renewals through email would also be helpful because we do spend a lot in postage. Better ownership information would also be helpful. And I know that this sounds like a small thing, but it does get complicated for us when we have, 400 properties and we're trying to deal with owners not filling out the form properly, and then we don't know how to get in touch with the owner, or they didn't put in property manager information, but they have one, and it causes us a lot of issues in trying to figure out who owns this property, and how do we get in touch with them. Especially if an issue comes up. We'd like to look at modernizing the inspection program, really focusing in on that risk, knowing that we've, over the last couple of years, really improved the housing or the rental stock through Rob's inspections and really getting compliance with landlords. We're looking at focusing in those inspections really on those that continue to have violations. So we'd be looking at a new rental, of course, having its initial inspection like it always does. We would look at rentals that don't have a violation within the last year, being able to move to an inspection frequency every other year, 2 years instead. And then if they continue to violate the ordinance, they would stay on that annual schedule. And then certainly if there's a complaint comes in, then we go out for an inspection. And I did ask Rob to be here tonight if you have any questions specifically on the inspection portion of this. It also would be helpful, as we know sometimes if people have to pay a fee for something, they may be more willing to comply. So when Rob has to go out continuously, which costs the borough money because we pay a fee for Rob, when he has to go out continuously for an inspection, being able to charge a reinspection fee, especially if they're continuing to fail on property maintenance issues as well, and even the possibility of a no-show fee, because Rob could probably tell you the number of times just in a week that he has to go to an inspection and no one is there. Better health and safety standards, looking at having an inspection checklist that could be approved by resolution that would have all of the required elements in it, make it incredibly transparent for landlords. They know exactly what it is that Rob would be looking for during an inspection, and there really would be no question. They couldn't say that there was a surprise. Oh, we didn't know you were looking for that. No question, it's in there. Occupancy rules is one that we also struggle with a little bit, especially for rentals that maybe are college rentals where they're getting new tenants every year or even every couple of months. Right now, the ordinance requires occupant lists with pink cards. Every person who's living in there, we could consider having collecting information just for the responsible adult tenants, the total number of tenants, and then the landlord would post that in the property. We're looking at having additional information around landlord and tenant responsibilities, especially around the role of the manager. That one is key. We have many more properties today than we did 20 years ago that have either a property manager that handles their rental, or an individual who the owner has made the property manager who's in charge of the property. But then we get into issues of if there's an emergency, who's responsible for it? Is the property manager coming out? Is the owner coming out? We get into issues like that where there's some lack of clarity on who's responsible. So being able to have more specific information in the ordinance around what is the role of a property manager. If you have one, what are they required to do? Let's see, affordable housing considerations. As I mentioned, affordable housing being a concern in our area, knowing that rental stock is part of that. Right now, the ordinance allows for 3 unrelated people to live in a unit. Our recommendation would be to look at allowing for 4 unrelated individuals to live in a rental property. That feels like a nice compromise for allowing for additional spots for affordable rentals in the borough while not exposing tenants to any unsafe conditions or overcrowding. Right now, actually, the state is considering removing those requirements altogether. We feel like to protect, especially the college population, knowing that there are so many student rentals in the borough, that we would be concerned if the state does move forward with removing that restriction entirely, because that could mean that a landlord could potentially have 6, 7, 8 students living in one unit. That would be concerning from a health and safety perspective. But 4 feels like a compromise of moving more in that direction, of having more space for individuals to rent while not getting into a difficult situation with health and safety. And there are certain parts of the ordinance that are concerns in terms of just the age of them. Something that council could consider, we don't have a specific feeling on it at the moment, but it could go either way. The requirement right now for an owner living more than 20 miles away has to have a county-based manager. That could be changed for the fact that with more modern communication these days, someone can get here relatively quickly. We would want to just specify that in the ordinance. And we try to be overly helpful by providing information for each landlord and giving them what they need to post in their property and all of that. Some of that could be on the landlord's responsibility without the borough having to spend a lot of time and effort on giving them everything that they need to do their jobs. We could trust them to do their job as a landlord. We don't anticipate any significant fiscal impact with some of these proposed changes. Currently, the rental licensing program brings in about $100,000 in revenue to the general fund, covers most of the cost of inspecting and running the program. We spend a lot in postage. And of course, Rob, we pay for Rob to go on inspections and do all of that. It's anticipated that some of these changes wouldn't really have any significant impact on the revenue or expenditures. So again, what we're looking for this evening, and I know that's a lot of information, and I know that luckily it's not a very lengthy ordinance, but it is an ordinance with a lot of detail. So what we're looking for this evening is maybe sort of your first takes on it, your thoughts on sort of what we presented, and any direction that you can give us in terms of continuing to work on it. Ultimately, we would like the authorization to be able to then go to the solicitor to actually work on the legal language of it. But that's sort of what we're looking at this evening.
Thank you. And thank you, Gina, for all your research. The memo, I think, was great. I think you're on the right track. Like, we need to modernize the borough in every way possible. And this seems like a great opportunity to digitize things, use email more, reduce staff time that's taken up by some of these tasks. So I'm in favor of moving this forward with all of the recommendations. The 4 unrelated individuals per unit seems reasonable to me. I think that's what it was in my college town. Anyone else want to jump in?
On that issue, is there any data on that? Do we have any information on inspections being, or complaint rates with 3 versus 4 unrelated occupants?
The hard thing for us is that because we've always capped it at 3, we don't necessarily know exactly what the difference would be with 4. I think knowing that the state legislature is trying to move towards eliminating that requirement altogether, and ultimately, of course, if the state preempts local government on this, then we have no choice, we have to comply. But it feels like a step in the right direction.
Is that in any way related to maximum number of people in relation to floor space for the apartment, for the area? I mean, is it 4 regardless of the size of the apartment?
It is.
Seems like that's a
Yeah, the way that our ordinance
important
is,
consideration.
it's not related to like the floor size or the size of the property. Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, if Rob's going to a property and there's 3 unrelated people, they each have their own bedroom.
Yes.
Yes. So with 4, they would, again, be required to have their own bedroom.
Yes.
But a lot of the properties in the borough do have a number of bedrooms, and you have run into situations where there are 3 unrelated people living there, they're in compliance, but there are additional rooms that could be used.
Yes.
In a safe way.
I have another unrelated to the occupancy levels. With the inspection rate, how much, and maybe Rob could address this, how much does passing an inspection predict that the next time you go in, they'll pass again? Is that why the decision to move to 2-year inspections, if they pass, the first one is made? Is that a pretty high predictor? Passing one predicts the next year's inspection?
It would, and we do have a lot of responsible landlords in town. Some not so much, some, it would work out if we did every other year with the good ones. A lot of it can be tenant caused too. It's not always the owners that do all this either. So it'll work hand in hand on that.
And this is a fairly common practice as well in businesses where inspections or auditing is a requirement, where a particular period of good behavior, which is to say passing audits, past inspections, are seen as predictors so that the auditing or inspecting firm can limit its resources to, problem children, essentially.
Right, that makes good sense, okay.
And that would be one of the great things about making that move, would be that it would allow us more time to provide more one-on-one attention to those rentals that do continue to fail, helping them become in compliance, versus having to re-inspect and re-inspect all the properties that every year have no issues. Because we do have a number of properties that are fantastic, that landlords, like you said, are great, they're in compliance. Rob goes in, it doesn't take very long because they're good properties. It's the ones that are not in compliance that it would be great if Rob could spend more time helping them.
And focus his attention where it belongs.
Well, I have another question about that. And if I read this stuff over, if I missed this in my reading, please forgive me. Does inspection becomes a pass-fail, a binary kind of issue, but yet there are multiple criteria. What are those criteria sort of balanced across level of importance?
Oh, good.
And how do you determine a pass versus a fail? Do they have to meet X percentage of criteria you're inspecting?
I see what you're saying.
So if, like smoke detectors obviously are a big one, fire extinguishers are another big one. And if we come up with this new checklist, it would teeter that around a little bit, because we would enforce the property maintenance code, we wouldn't charge to go back out for the property maintenance code violations. This would allow us, if we change this ordinance up, to now re-inspect it to make sure it was done all correctly, instead of not, wasting the time they have to go back for nothing. To make sure it's safe, obviously, but nothing like as in payment from the owners to come back out and check it for a property maintenance inspection.
But to your question, so if Rob goes in and they're missing a fire extinguisher, that's going to be a fail. That's a pretty significant one.
Smoke alarm, yeah.
If Rob sees, like, there's been times where there's been like maybe suspected mold. If Rob can't make a significant determination, he's not necessarily going to fail a property for something that is a little bit unclear. But if something is a significant health and safety hazard, that is going to be a fail. But Rob is a very understanding inspector and tries to work with landlords as best as possible. And we also don't want to be in a situation where a repeat failure because of a small thing ends up leading somebody to be without a rental property. Like, we don't want it to lead to somebody being removed from the property because of repeated failure on something that is not a significant health and safety issue. But we also want that there are significant issues, that those are taken incredibly seriously, and that they get that fail right away and understand that this needs to be remedied. And if Rob's going back out for multiple inspections, we're looking at more significant issues.
So there is not currently a formal checklist that goes through all of the key items to look for on an inspection. So that would be part of this process, developing that checklist.
A more fleshed out one, because right now it's just the items in the ordinance that are listed that Rob's looking for. We would want to have one that's more fleshed out, that includes the new 2024 International Property Maintenance Code items that council passed a few weeks ago, to list those out more specifically, so that it's clear that when Rob's going in, that, he's checking to make sure all windows are functional, and that, there's not a window that couldn't open if there was a fire.
Do other municipalities, perhaps some that you looked at, Gina, have they established these checklists already? Do they exist? And are we able to tap into already existing forms to get an idea?
Absolutely, there's a lot out there, right?
I think State College has out of all of the ones that I researched, State College's was one, the longest, and two, the most detailed. They had everything listed. They had so many subsections for any kind of appliances in the rentals. So theirs was very helpful to look at, to kind of compare ours and see, wow, like they have it totally together and so succinctly. So.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
I'm also in favor of charging additional fees, especially no-shows for a small borough with not a lot of money. So when we can tie fees directly to actions, I think that's a good use. So
Just two quick questions. What's the rationale for the 24 months versus the 36 months that our other college towns follow?
I think, and Rob, you can talk about this too, but I think our worry was going from every year to every 3 years might be a lot, especially making this jump quickly. So it felt more like an appropriate compromise, especially given the number of rentals that we have, to look more at every other year. And that could be something that down the line could get changed again. But there are some properties that it would be helpful to see every year. And there are some that it gives them that bit of relaxation, a bit of leniency of understanding, you're a good rental, we'll see you every 2 years. But I think it felt like a nice compromise versus making that jump all the way to 36.
And this is sort of not directly relevant, but it was something that had come in a conversation. When we have a community with multiple generations of families, and you have aging parents, and they decide to transfer the ownership of the house to the adult child, that then becomes a rental property. Is that correct?
If the ownership is still with the parents, then yes, it is technically a rental. If they transfer ownership entirely, then it's not a rental.
So I mean, it seems like a waste of resources where nothing's changed.
Sure.
Technically.
Right.
So I didn't know if there's, I don't know if it's very common. I know some cases, but I don't know how common it is. And is there a special way to address that?
We have a handful of them in the borough. Some more cooperative than others. And one of the difficult arguments that we talk about frequently is if the goal of the ordinance is health and safety, and the owner of the property, even if they are related, is not living there, there could be a concern that health and safety isn't as good as it would be if an owner was there.
Okay.
So it's hard because I know that some people don't view it as a rental, but without having that stipulation, we could open ourselves up to a whole new different area of risk. But like you said, moving to every 2 years would allow for those types of rentals, the few that we have, to be able to not have as frequent of inspection, knowing that there are not really any changes going on in the property.
Thank you.
Or they could change the ownership to the children. We wouldn't have to worry about that at all.
Anyone else?
Just a couple of comments. Obviously, whatever administrative steps need to be taken to reduce the burden on our staff, I think should be taken as long as they are reasonable and safeguard the security information of the property owner and the tenants. Where we have a question about whether to hold the property owner or the property management company liable, I think that we should default to the owner of the property rather than the management company. I think that's the most responsible thing to do, and encourages more selectiveness when it comes to choosing a property management company to govern. And then, yes, I'm always in favor of checklists for everything. Yes, let's use a checklist. It's fair, it's cut and dry, it makes everybody's job and life easier, so let's, yes, please go to that. Everything else, I basically echo what has been already said here in council.
Do you have what you need from us?
Yes,
as
no,
far as
this is very
things
helpful.
sounds like we're very supportive of the changes.
Has Joselle already made recommendations, or are you gathering opinions of council and trying to do take our temperature before talking to her?
Precisely, yes. So it sounds like council is generally comfortable with the direction we're moving in, so if council's okay with it, we will start involving the solicitor then on diving into more of the actual details of this.
In the event of a safety item that is outside of a predictable scope, I know that we would previously use something like our Public Works Public Safety Committee or some kind of safety board for adjudicating those things. What is the current stand-in for that as far as like making those decisions?
If somebody's appealing a decision?
If somebody is appealing a decision, if there is some question about whether or not an item is, falls inside or outside the scope of the ordinance as it exists, is that something that gets brought to a broader council? What is the avenue?
Yes, it would be brought to council. That is one of the things actually that's very old in the ordinance, that it still says safety committee, and
I saw
safety
the
committee
red line
hasn't
version.
existed in the time that I've been here, so it's definitely predates me. So that all
I just
that
assumed that was Public Works and Public Safety, like the old Public Works Public Safety Committee.
right, when they used to be even more split out, right? So yes, all the language in there that says safety committee would be replaced with borough council unless council wanted to do something different. But especially for things like an appeal of a disruptive conduct report. Those generally feel most appropriate to come to council, since they're appealing a decision between, the police issuing the disruptive conduct report and then them getting it from the code enforcement side. The violation goes out to the owners. So council feels like the most appropriate body for that.
I think that's fine. I mean, we don't see a whole lot of that anyway. It's not bogging us down. We can always revisit that if we end up getting a ton.
There was one during my last term.
And there was one, I think, kind of during the 2 years you were out, so.
So,
Yeah, they don't have them very often.
This is not something that's bogging us down. I
Yeah.
think it's fine to leave it with council.
all right. Thanks.
Thank you all for the discussion.
Our next discussion is the Main Street Matters grant application.
So excited.
More info from you, Rebecca.
So probably as you remember, when we were talking about grant applications for this year, working with our consultant Barry Eisen and Associates, town council was presented with a proposal to do a couple of different applications, some related to the park project and going after grants for that. And then we've also talked about applying for the Pennsylvania Main Street Matters grant. The governor did decide to open the grant application again. It is open right now. It closes the end of August. The borough could be applying for $50,000. That would be matched with $25,000 from the borough for a $75,000 project. That would be to do a revitalization plan, specifically focused on our main corridor. In your background information, it had the specific sort of map of the area that the plan would look at, as well as there were some pictures in there of the specific areas, which of course you all know. But this would be, we would sort of view this as, if we are successful, step one. Step one would be the plan, step two would be the execution of that plan. But it has been a while since the borough has really taken a strong look at our sort of Main Street corridor. I believe the last time that it was really looked at was 2015. That's how the downtown overlay happened over on Lehman Avenue, that intersection there. So this would be taking it a step further. This would be looking at a larger area. And we would hope to really engage the business community, as well as the residents on a plan that would really look at revitalization, because that really is the goal of the Main Street Matters program, is being able to revitalize those Main Street areas, sort of, the Main Street USA kind of concept. And I think it's also appropriate right now, timing-wise, in terms of what is happening around the borough, in terms of different developments and things going on. So it would be an opportunity to really define what does Main Street look like in Millersville Borough. So we've already started trying to gather letters of support, and council, in order to continue to move forward with submitting the grant application, would need to approve the resolution to apply for the grant, and execute the commitment of funds letter that would go with the grant. And this would be something that we would then put into the budget for next year, if we're successful.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution to apply for a Main Street Matters District Development Grant of $50,000 from the Commonwealth Finance Authority and execute the commitment of funds letter.
Is that Greg? Thank you. Thanks, Joe and Greg. Any discussion? I mean, I think this is an excellent application of these funds, especially since we adjusted some of the zoning along George Street there. This is great I know one of the things we're trying to do is bring in a little more commercial, and this is a great first step. So with that, all those in favor of approving the resolution to apply for a Main Street Matters District Development Grant of $50,000 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority and execute the commitment of funds letter signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks for pursuing these grants. It's excellent.
Absolutely.
Next up is the mayor's report. Phil?
Yes, I only have one item to mention tonight. As mayor, I was invited to attend a graduation ceremony at Millersville University for next Tuesday, August 18th. It's a graduation from the CPM Certified Public Manager Program that they offer. And the program is a comprehensive 300-hour of study where managers can acquire best practices and theory to their management behaviors. Millersville University is Pennsylvania's exclusive provider of this credential. So the program basically prepares managers for careers in federal, state, local government, and other organizations with a public purpose. So I'm going to go to represent the borough at the ceremony. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Managers report.
Sorry, it's just one of those nights.
Yeah,
Sorry.
a lot of Rebecca.
A lot of items. The first item is more of an FYI, a staffing change within Commonwealth Code Inspection Services, which Rob is a part of. It's both a good thing and maybe a hard thing, but it's a great thing that the borough gets a lot of permit applications. Residents are busy with sheds and fences and doing lots of wonderful things that require permits, so it's a very good thing. However, it is hard for Rob to balance with all of the different things that he does in terms of rentals. So in a way to make this work, Commonwealth Code Inspection Services approached us about adding an additional person to really focus in on zoning and permits, and Rob can continue to focus on rentals and property maintenance issues. So Commonwealth Code sent us Donna. She is in the office on Mondays and Wednesdays, and she is helping execute permits and deal with any zoning matters. And Rob continues to focus on property maintenance issues in the borough as well as rental inspections. So if any questions come up about those items, you can continue to send them to the same email. They're both using that email, the codes and zoning. And as you saw in the backup, there was a letter from Commonwealth stating that this would not involve an increase in cost to the borough. It's just separating their hours differently, not adding any additional hours. Any questions about that?
No, I was very worried that Rob was leaving. I was like, this is so sad.
No, we will never. Right, Rob? Okay. The next item is a briefing on the pump station overflow incident that we did email to council last week. I will have less much to answer any questions if they come up. As we included in the backup, and as we sent out in the email last week, we did have a small incident with the Creek Drive pump station on July 29th related to a power outage that happened. That was one of those evenings where there was a really significant rainstorm that happened. There was a power outage. At every pump station, there is a backup generator, and it feels like the worst luck in the world when a backup generator does not work. It just so happened that when the power went out, the backup generator kicked on as it's supposed to. Frank, who's on our operations team, went out, what was that, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., something like that?
About 3, yeah, the power outage is 2:17.
Yeah. He went and saw that the generator was indeed working as it was supposed to.
Well, it was working at 3.
Right, it was
Yeah.
working as it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then apparently, after about 4 hours of it working properly, the backup generator decided it didn't want to work anymore. Because of the timing between the generator stopping working and when PP&L got the electric back on, there were a couple hours in there that unfortunately resulted in a slight sewer overspill that did flow from the Creek Drive pump station towards the Conestoga River. The additional details about that were in the letter that was included in the backup, as well as the pictures of the incident and the cleanup. We're happy to report at this point that the issue has been resolved. We did have a backup generator for a couple of days just in case there was another power outage. That was a rental that we rented for a few days until Hyman's, our contractor, was able to repair the generator. We had to buy a part from Texas.
Correct.
My car from Texas, so it took some time to get there. But we also bought backup spares of those parts so that we had them. But this
Which we don't have yet, but yes, we had ordered them, yeah.
So we're happy to answer any questions about it. It was an unfortunate incident. Les was on site the entire time that it was happening. And, you know, PPL, of course, does their best to get things back on as soon as possible. There was just a short time in there that the power was not back on, but the generator wasn't working. So that caused that slight spill. We can answer any questions about it. We haven't gotten any information yet from DEP. We expect that there will likely be a notice of violation sent to us, but at this point, we haven't received anything.
The specific fault that led to the backup generator not working, is this something that is inspected for or audited on a regular basis?
No, it's electrical.
But you test the generator every
Oh, yeah, we run the generators every 2 weeks for 0.3 of an hour under load, all of them. So we have 5 and you have one up here. Yeah.
And the
And
specific,
twice a year, to answer your question, Heim comes out, changes oil filters and everything else on them, and does a load test on them too. So I don't know what else I can, the generator, we haven't lost power more than 2 hours in how long? That power's out from 2:17 to 11:54, 0200 to 11:54. The generator ran for 4.1 hours and took a shit. So I was out of power from about 6:20 to 11:54. At 9:10 is when it started coming out of the manhole. Luckily, with the college being out, the flows were down enough that the system was able to hold it for a while. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
sure, it's, my only concern is now that it has happened, we have to consider the possibility that it happens again in the future. How confident are we in our backup generators being able to handle a 9-ish hour power outage
Well,
moving
I guess the
forward?
question would be this, Joe. Is anybody here driving a 30-year-old car? No, honestly. So my generators are, I made a list of them up today, just to, so the main office was 07, Quaker Hills is 96, Lafayette's 2006, Crossgate's 91, Creek Drive's 96, the plant's 93. So up until this point, yes, we've been successful and able to keep that stuff going.
So you believe that the fault is in the age of the generators themselves?
Well, I don't know, I'm not sure. I think it was an electrical failure
Sure.
of a part.
No, and
And how,
put an unprecedented load on
right,
it.
so that's something, that part is not something that I would keep in stock. Because there's so many, I should have showed the pictures of the electrical system on this. I didn't bring them with me. There's 2 boards in there behind the panel, 2 computer boards. If one of those goes, they're 10 grand a piece. This was on the back side of all that. It's just it was a governor board that went, and also a solenoid. The solenoid was $60. I'm not sure what the governor board is. Plus the fact that we had probably 10 to 15 grand in having a backup generator for the backup generator, which luckily it didn't have to start, but I had to do that because we were out of power that long for backup. So to answer your question, I don't know. I really don't know. But like I said, 3 of them are over 30 years old.
Yeah, my concern is, obviously, we want to mitigate any impact we have on the environment and so on and so forth, but to me, the concern is, now that this has happened, we have to consider that it may happen again in the future.
Well, certainly.
And what are we doing to prevent this same mistake from happening again and possibly causing some destruction in the environment, imposing fines on the borough, et cetera?
Well, the best thing to do would be to have a trailer-mounted generator that would work at all of them, and I can't do that, because we're talking 3 different voltages and about 5 different sizes. The one down at the plant, 600 kilowatt, the smallest one up here is 35 up here, it's a single phase up here. 3 of them are 120, 240, or, yeah, 3 of them were 120, 240. One of them's 120, 208. So you can't have the same backup generator, for those smaller ones. The larger ones are the big one at the plant and the big one at Creek Drive. The big one at the plant is 277, 480, and 600 kilowatt.
Then we approach it from the other side. Do we know what caused the delay in PP&L getting the power back to us?
I do not. They didn't. Spoke with them, and they did not tell me. It was down in our areas where it was at.
If at the end of this, we have to hope it doesn't happen again, meaning it hasn't happened before, as far as I know.
I've never had power loss more than a couple hours the
Sure.
whole time I've been here. I think 4 hours was the most. I've been here, I'll be
This lasted
38 years
4.1
here.
hours, so.
Yeah, so,
That's why it feels like just a series of events that unfortunately led to this.
Yeah, the end of my career here hasn't been pretty.
What's that?
The end of my career here has not been very nice.
It's been a couple of
It's supposed to get easier.
We still believe in you.
Stuff is supposed to get easier, and I got a real S show going on here, So, I'm not happy about it either, but.
No, but if at the end of this, the solve is this has to not happen again, then it's something that we need to address with PP&L to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, ideally.
Because there's
right?
not anything that is under our control here at the municipality that we can do within reason to prepare for another 9-hour power loss. And it would have to be something that's limited in cost because the odds of it ever happening again seem to be catastrophically low.
And unfortunately too, and Les and I talked about this, one of those risks that we sort of have to deal with because we have, we have a permit and we have a permit to have a sewer treatment plant, that all the municipalities that have a sewer treatment know that these things could happen if unfortunately all the right things come together at the same time. And luckily it has, we've been here 8 years.
It'll be 8 in November.
And it only happened once. Feels like a win that it took this long. But it is, I struggle with the same thing that you're getting at. And I wish we had a perfect solution to it.
Let me give you just a little history of that pump station too, Joe. When that was first put in 1960, it had a main bypass going right to that had no backup power. So I had a main bypass that went to the river. In the wet well of the pump station, it also had a bypass that went to the little stream there behind it where the little bridge is down there at Creek Drive.
Yep.
If you go upstream from that a little bit, you'll see a concrete wing wall there with a metal flapper on it. That was to the wet well of the old pump station. When we upgraded that in '96, it was the old pump station, just upgrading it. They made us take the one out to the stream out, which we did, and then we still had the flapper in the wet well. When we upgraded in 2013, obviously none of that was there anymore because now we're submersible pumps. It's there's nothing there for it. So now my bypass is at first manhole before it gets to the station. But I'm just telling you, over the years, that place didn't even have a generator.
Yeah.
It didn't even have anyway, and same with the plant. The plant didn't get a generator until 1993. That's the evolution of the system.
No, every reasonable step has been taken. We have a backup. We may not have a backup to our backup because that would be a little bit insane. This is a once in a 38-year, at the least,
I hope so.
occurrence.
I hope so.
And knock on every source of wood. So yeah, I'm satisfied.
Can you remind us, what if there is a fine from environmental services? What would that fine be? And is it relevant to how much of a discharge occurred?
Our understanding is yes.
Yes to both. I don't know if we will receive one.
How significant was the discharge? What, 50,000?
Did anybody read the letter that I
read it. I
Okay, it
can't
has-
recall the number.
Shockingly high.
28,000
overflow.
all right, all right,
50,000 gallons?
28,000 gallons.
28,000.
That was the estimate,
Okay.
based upon the previous flows of the
And
couple days before. It was average 230,000 gallons, divided by 24, came up with 9,000 gallons a day. It was about 3 hours that the power was off, so I came up with that figure. That's how I did the math. So,
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that you mentioned was it was mostly liquid.
yes, yeah. Not, yeah, it was just, yeah, everything else, it wasn't, we saw the picture of the manhole with what's coming out there. It was hardly anything to clean up. Yeah, it was just wastewater, which is 99.9 or 8% water.
And where it came out of the manhole, it had to go down across that little,
I had to go across that,
down the bank. So some of
Yeah.
it's going to be absorbed into the ground, right?
some of it was, yeah. And some of it, some of that too, well, yeah.
I'll also say, to say first, for your diligence with this, because from all the information we read, it looks like you were doing everything possible to make this better. So I appreciate that first. When stuff like this happens, everyone looks for what happened, what's the problem, but I also want to point out that we have staff that are committed and are putting the time into this personally to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen, because it seems to be a freak act of God situation with this, because we have the redundancy, and I'm just glad that you were able to put so much time into this, and we do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like I said, they were notified. I called them about an hour after it started just to let them know. Like, if they wanted to come down, nobody came down. And was on the phone with them when the power came back on, and then wrote the letter the following Monday to, so. Seems like every time I want to go away, brother, this is when it happens,
That's what it means.
I was off on Thursday and Friday, and this is on a Wednesday morning, so, yeah. That's,
The age of the generators, is that a concern? Using the analogy of a car is one thing, but
Well, here's the thing, Greg, there's, if you look at the hours on these units, we got 459 maybe on that.
Sure.
So it's like, really, unless the head gasket blows or something, it's, it's probably worth to keep going with it. The problem is, the electrical parts in these systems, when you got something that's 30 years old, it gets harder to find.
Sure.
So Cummins Power Systems is a worldwide, countrywide company. They didn't have it locally, the part we needed. I had to get it from Texas, got a red line from Texas. Luckily it came Friday morning, they were able to get things straightened out. We're up and running that Friday, got rid of the other generator then on this past Monday. But that's the problem, you run into parts problems, so, yeah.
yeah, because a car's one thing, but
Right.
a breaker box is not that
Right.
concerning as 30 years. I assume that the hours would be low.
Yeah.
Sometimes, seals go, of course, and things deteriorate.
To me, it's not, at this point in time, it wouldn't be worth spending $125,000 on a new generator that is probably not going to be built as well as the one we have. Plus it's going to have EPA depth and everything else you got to put into it. So to me, it was just it was a freak thing. What can I say? Mechanically, we try to keep everything going with it, so, yeah. Any other questions?
I'll echo Ryan's comments. Thanks for your diligence and the extra mile you and your staff always go, so.
You're welcome. Thank
Sorry
you.
this happened.
Oh, me too. I don't like calling DEP like this.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of that. Yeah.
Do you want me to move on to the next item?
Sure.
Okay, so the next item is the approval of the 2027 financial requirement related to our MMO, our minimum municipal obligation for our pension plans. based on the calculations by our firm that handles the administration of our pension plans, we are looking at a minimum municipal obligation for the police pension plan of $611,823 for 2027, and for the non-uniform pension plan, we're looking at $150,725. As a reminder, these amounts are the amount that the borough has to budget in order to keep our pension plans stable for the next year. We have a fantastic firm that helps us figure out all of these numbers and put it all together for us. But it is a requirement that this is reviewed in September and then sent back, that the borough acknowledges that this is what we have to budget for next year. And they are very large numbers.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2027 minimum municipal obligation for the Millersville Borough pension plans.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mike? Discussion or comments? Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to know how many people do we have on the police pension plan, if you have those numbers?
I don't have it in front of me at this particular moment. I can get it to you because I do have that information. I don't have it in front of me at this moment.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious.
I can get you our list of those who are actively taking from the pension plan, those who are in wait, and those who are contributing.
Any other discussion? All right, then, all those in favor of approving the 2027 municipal, minimum municipal obligation for the Millersville Borough pension plan signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next, the Green Light Go announcement.
Yes, this is such exciting news. It was earlier this year that the borough applied for the PennDOT Green Light Go funding program to be able to do a update to all of our signals in the borough, update them all to a radar system, no more loop under the road. It would be all radar, all based on the traffic flows. And we were successful with that grant application. We were awarded $450,720 from the state for this project. So in order for us to formally accept that and move forward, we need to, council needs to approve the execution of the grant agreement, which I believe Lauren and I received in our emails. And the great part about this one, the match on this one was a small match. We only had to do 20% for this one. And so that will be budgeted for next year. So our hope would be to carry this out next year, and then hopefully start getting prepared to bid the project, hopefully over the winter, and then be able to carry it out next year. But this is hugely helpful, and the fact that we were successful with this grant is just very exciting. We're thrilled.
It's really wonderful. I just want to emphasize that for everyone. This is so great. We get to update all of our intersections without, or with a very small amount of taxpayer dollars. So I'll make the motion to accept the PennDOT Green Light Go funding of $450,000, $450,720 for the borough signal detection upgrades project, and approve execution of the grant agreement.
Second?
Thank you, Angela. Questions or discussion? All right, then all those in favor of accepting the PennDOT Green Light Go funding of $450,720 for the borough signal detection upgrade project and approve execution of the grant agreement signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Congratulations to us.
This is so exciting. So
I
exciting.
hope the sheets red light's the first one they hit.
We'll hope to do them all at once. The last item is something that I would like to present. Gina, can you come up here? Come up over here.
Okay.
Make you stand in the middle.
Okay.
Come on.
No, come over here.
Oh,
Come over
sorry.
here.
Come over here. I'd like to express appreciation for your service to the borough this summer as our municipal intern. Gina has worked on a number of projects this summer. She has attended meetings, she has shadowed staff members, she has participated at an admiral level among borough staff in discussing and solving issues facing the borough. So we'd like to publicly report this action of the borough for expressing its gratitude to your service to the community. Presented this day, August 11th, 2026. Thank you. I just need the mayor's.
Yes, thank you, Gina, for being our first ever borough intern. This was great, and thank you to Rebecca for getting this program going. I hope we'll have many more interns in the future.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. I just want to say this has been a very wonderful experience. On behalf of myself and hopefully future student interns as well, I just really think this is a great opportunity to kind of show any government students at the university or anyone, even at Penn Manor. I think we have some incoming Penn Manor students as well who want to intern. Just kind of giving them a chance to explore local government and see really how everyone can make a difference when you work together in a small community like this. So thank you, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gina.
Excellent.
That is it for the manager.
All right, well, just two things for my report. I wanted to say that Mike Caulfield and I attended the County Borough Association meeting in July at Mount Joy. Rebecca is the secretary of the Borough Association, so that was great. It was great to meet another small borough. I think we sat with Elizabethtown, got to talk about university business a little bit. So I wanted to share that we did that, and then just bring up the National Night Out again, and really thank everyone who participated and supported the program. I don't know if, Chief, you want to make any comments about it, but I think it was a great success, and I look forward to it next year.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it's a very nice thing to see with a town our size, if you can get 400 or 500 people to link up for that evening and all the contacts that were made and people met each other, it's nice to see.
It was great to see the number of organizations represented, businesses. You know, I know we're trying to bring in more business to the borough, so we have a strong community already.
I'd like to make a mention here that as mayor, I walked every single table and thanked the people for participating in the event. So it was 50 tables.
Yeah.
He was gone for a while, because I was talking to him and he disappeared. Showed up about 2 hours later, so he did do it.
Snyder's will have to get more hot dogs next year.
I was gonna say, I saw you visiting the hot dog stand twice.
Well, he had to refuel.
I have one more question for Les. Did you have a backup intern? A backup intern?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not in charge of that person.
I just wondered about that.
We can get some.
Maybe he does need an intern. I don't know. All right, another opportunity for citizens' requests or concerns. Sure. You know the drill, Tony?
Yes, I'll be ready. So I'm Tony Hightower, 210 New Street here in Millersville, and I'm not wearing my Civil Service Commission hat, but I'd like to go back to the discussion on the power loss and the overflow at the pump station. So in industry, we experience these events quite frequently, and when there's a consequence or a potential consequence like a permit violation or a threat to the health and safety of the public, we have established processes for evaluating, doing causal analysis and determining corrective actions that look at the causes comprehensively, trying to understand what the root causes are and what can be done to prevent this in the future. So I think Council Vice President Lane's challenges and questions were great. I also think Les's responses were great. But I'd like to propose that there are formal processes and experts who can go through those that aren't skills that are common in municipalities, more common in industry. But I'd suggest that might, engaging somebody who's an expert in that causal analysis might result in a more positive outcome and a clearer path to go down to make things more reliable or make it less likely to occur in the future.
Thank you.
And I can help later with more discussion if you'd like.
Tony, is there, and maybe, I don't know if you would be the person to ask, but maybe this is a Rebecca question, but on this topic, if this were to happen again, would we be able to put out a request for people to reduce their water usage or things like that? Would that make an impact on anything? You know, almost like a Amber Alert, not to be an Amber Alert, but something of that nature.
Because of how quick it all happens, that would be, by the time it would get to people, probably wouldn't unfortunately make a big difference.
I'm just wondering if it could have been mitigated to some degree.
There are lots of things out there, speaking from the industry side, that could be done. There are contract services that could be on call and everything. But I think going through the process of analyzing and figuring out what the risks are, what could be done, and what the cost benefit is, it's far from simple answers because everything costs money, everything costs resources. Going through the formal analysis process, it's something tried and true that we use in industry, probably not familiar to municipal governments as much, but I suspect there are services out there that could do that analysis for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste your time. I know it's running late. Real quick, my name is Richard Franz. I live at 55 North Duke Street. I saw that you were talking about and stuff. I look around and I see there's a lot of experience in this room. I also see that we have a police department, a fire department, utilities, landlords, and just the common people, that they should be putting their input on this. They should have a committee and really come down with the truth, because there's a lot of people, maybe in your fire or police, won't say anything that they should say in a committee meeting to get things squared away. I think it should be required for each renter to take a policy out. Then you're putting it back on the policy and the person, and you can get the name of the renters who are in our community. And it might save some lives, because a lot of guys had some good ideas, and this thing about 3 years and 2 years, that's a bunch of bunk. Every year we have a bunch of young kids, irresponsible, coming in and have no idea what it is to live. Their parents aren't there to tell them what to do, and they do a lot of mistakes. Even 20 years ago, my son took over some houses on Prince Street, one house. It was a farmhouse. We ripped the whole thing apart. We took all that clapboard out. We put all new drywall in. We put electrical outlets so many feet apart and made it a requirement, no spare lines or plugs or anything else. Made certain kinds of rules for the people that moved in, that the fire department will tell you, these kids, they put these extension cords all over the place and everything else, and they might have a thing right beside it to a plug. There's a lot of mistakes made. I think our landlords need help, and this would really help them, making each person get insurance. Then the insurance person makes them at least answer some questions that they should be responsible. And you see the irresponsibility of the college kids. I remember going down years ago, and one kid said, well, this hole is in this wall here. Thank God we put sheetrock in. And I said, yeah, so you're going to pay for it. Oh, no, it was at a party. I don't care. It's you're running this place. You're going to get it, and we're going to bill you. They have no idea being responsible for. Or even if you drive down Prince Street and you see 6 parking places, nobody there, and they're parking illegally on the left side. Why? They do all kinds of stupid stuff, run stop signs and do all kinds of stuff. I'm not saying that, I had 2 servicemen down there. I never saw such a perfect house and kept them in place. So I'm just saying you have a variety of kids and you just can't say, oh, that's this way or that way. Each house has new kids practically every year or every 3 months, and they should be inspected. And the good inspections, it takes, what, half an hour. The bad inspections, you run into problems, but they should be inspected every time. It's just common sense, and it saves lives. Okay, thank you.
Richard, I think you should know that you don't have to feel like we're running behind. You don't have to hurry.
Yeah,
You don't think it's unimportant. And when Keith comes up, whoever's going to speak, when public comments becomes a less important part of this, I don't want to be here. So,
I appreciate
thanks
that,
for
Mike.
coming up. And we're patient. We're listening here. So,
Well, I know that you say 3 to a house, yeah, well, that's fine, and I know that student housing does 5, or whatever. I know that there's a lot of boroughs like Millersville has gone out of business or bankrupt because student housing made a lot of stipulations and laws and stuff that the common landlord couldn't keep up with. I know a couple of things I just hope they don't do to us, that we lose the pride in our community to a bunch of guys who get. And I don't understand this. When you give some guy a special rate because he has 20 things, you have 20 people paying rents, they should pay the same as the guy that has 1 house and is taking care of his house 10 times better than the person that has 20. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you made some good points. I saw Rob nodding his head. So I know we got a variety of renters in the borough.
Keith White, I live on Manor Avenue. I didn't come here for this reason, but just talking about this 3 versus 4, and I have no idea what the state's thinking to allow unlimited amount of people in a house. I have no idea. But I was here in the 70s when Millersville allowed 4. And then they changed it, and because it was chaos. Because we had 4, but we really had 5. And you know as well as I do, there's many of these rentals that have 3 that really have 4. Okay, it happens. So I would be very cautious about that, because the reason it reads unrelated are the college students. And financially, if you take a $300,000 home, a $250,000 home, you can easily turn that into a rental now if you're going to open it up for 4 people. Because they're charging these kids $600-700 a month. So you don't want to do that, because again, these new places, what's people screaming at you about? Apartments. We don't want to turn homes into more apartments by allowing Millersville students to move off campus now when they're juniors, because they don't want them moving off because there's not enough students, but they still are able to. So keep that in mind. Unrelated is the key issue there. Now, the real reason I came, I don't know where you are with the 2027 budget, but back in October of '24, the state legislature passed, and then Shapiro passed in January of '25, this Act 131 and House Bill 2265. Are you guys familiar with that? Which allows you guys to get paid more. Okay, so you're allowed to jump now up with a borough that's under 10,000 up to $41,900, $4,190. You're worth at least that. Okay, so that bill has been passed. I don't know what you've done in the past. Maybe you gave yourselves a pay raise. I don't know. But please consider giving yourself a pay raise. This was a state legislation that was passed in 2024 and is in place for boroughs. And if you get over 10,000 people in the borough, which we will be with all these new developments and all this work you're having to do, it goes up to $5,450. You're worth every penny. Put a pay raise in for yourselves.
That's a surprising comment.
I don't think we can vote for a raise for ourselves. I think we can probably pass something that the next group that's going to be coming in would receive the pay increase.
Why can't you?
I don't know.
Council, you set the rules and regulations, you surely can put in the 2027 budget
It wouldn't
based on
apply.
the state legislature. There's no conflict of interest here. What do I have to do? I have to go get signatures? Come on, there's no conflict of interest.
No,
It
it's
says-
legitimately in the law that any ordinance that you would pass to change the amount does get kicked to the next elected
So you
body.
can't give yourself a raise, but if you run again, or you
Well, I
can.
misread it then. You know,
Right.
if I read it as in it is state law, signed in, and any borough or municipality in the state of Pennsylvania can now increase from the whatever 2,400 you guys make to the next level. So I'm just throwing it out there. Hopefully you can get it done, either for you or the next group.
Appreciate your support. Any other comments? All right, we do have an executive session needed this evening, right? Did I skip anything? Okay. So at this time, first I want to note that we will be going into executive session and no action will be taken in there. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Someone want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to recuse ourselves to an executive session regarding a legal settlement.
If the public would like to stay, we ask that you leave this room. We will be taking action after. We'll come back and let you know. I'll second the motion. So all in favor of entering executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and we go into the little room.
My math is ready.
Yeah. Oh, it's tied 1-1. I was looking
Well,
Or that's what it was.
I just did my quick math.
There you go.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, it was a question I always asked when I served on council.
Oh, it's 2 for Boston.
I do think we're going to first baseman. That's good.
Thank you, Liz.
Sir. I don't think the mayor needs to be here.
You're welcome to join us.
Well, I read the document. All right, good night, everybody. Good night. See you.
how long this has been to get back. Melissa already. We're at it for so long, but after this is done, they're gonna go vacation, we'll be meeting to discuss National Night Out once a year. Hopefully. Maybe some promotions. Oh, I haven't said that before, I don't have to. I got a bad practice.
That's right.
He certainly does. I had a sergeant here, he's a goofball, he was not professional, but he was always joking. And that Piper, years ago, when I got hired, he could not resist, when he got hired, he would tell me, all right, I'm gonna take you down to the sewer. He had to say it every time. He had to say it every time. He had to do the jokes. Say the jokes crap. Molested. He didn't pull that. All right. See you later. Nice vacation. Behave yourself. Have fun. Well, trying to save money for handicap, which you can appreciate. But it doesn't take advantage of it as much as it should. I mean, a lot often, people did ask.
I figured there wouldn't be any parking available, so I wrote a scooter for my household.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
No, we purposely, that was a little tweak we did this year, we set aside. Well, we try to save most of this parking here, so the community doesn't all have to be shut.
I figured there was a few that parking lots, so
It's a good problem, it's a good sign of our community if we're having that out for other space. That's what I said. It's very nice. You see that it's not. In some respects today with all the division, see if community show up in those numbers for our town of 8,000, a little less than 8,000. That's really good. Well, that's what I'm saying is compared to my time.
I've never been wanting them to somehow trade a contract with a couple of our big contracts, and I was really thinking, man, you look great in our red stockings. Boy, that's bad. Very much.
Yeah.
Very much obsessed with it.
Yeah. Well, it's just 1 year, because
I
he
hope
is in
so.
a long contract.
Yeah.
And you don't want, we got rid of Devers. He was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Just a bad contract.
I'll invite them back in.
Are there people out there?
It's just the chief and Dave sitting out there. They see us.
Okay. I'll make a motion to close our executive session.
Second?
Well, I think Angela beat you out, Greg. All those in favor of closing our executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we can take action on this item. I will make the motion to approve the execution of settlement agreement with the PA Fish and Boat Commission regarding the WWTP sludge spill incident in March of 2025.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Begrudging aye.
Yeah, opposed, okay, we're all right. I'll now make a motion to adjourn at 8:24.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.